Hello and welcome back. This is a video over the 6.4 notes, and this is a section about circles, and we're going to kind of wrap up our geometry unit here. And we've got a lot of things we're going to do in this section. It's kind of a long section. What we want to do is we want to be able to find either the length of the radius given the diameter, or find the diameter given the length of the radius. We want to be able to calculate the circumference of a circle, we want to find the area of a circle, and we want to solve application problems. So the first things first, a circle, okay, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to draw in a circle as best I can. And what I know about a circle is that every point along a circle, okay, is equidistant to the center of the circle, okay? And what I mean by equidistant is that I can come in here and I can draw in a length here from the center of the circle to the outside, and I'm going to call that my radius. Okay, so my radius is the length on a circle from the center to any point on the outside. Okay, so the radius is the length from the center of a circle to any point on the circle. Okay, and that's what I know. Now I could also do this, and I can draw a number of radiuses. Okay, I can draw actually an infinite number of radiuses, but we won't get into that really. What I want to do is I want to draw a line that goes from the center of my circle to the outside, and then it also continues on to the other side. This length I call my diameter d. And the diameter, okay, is a line that goes from one side of the circle to the other. So this is a line from one point on the circle to another that passes through the center, okay? Okay, and so what I want to do, there's a relationship between the radius and the diameter. And what you'll notice here is that the same length that I have here for the radius would be the same length as this half of the diameter, okay? And it would be the same length as this half of the diameter. So what I know is this. If I were to take 2 and multiply it by my radius, that would give me my diameter, okay? Now, the other thing that I could think of here is that that my diameter, if I were to divide my diameter by 2, I would also get my radius, okay? And so what I know is that the, and these are important to know and remember because we're going to use these quite a bit. But one thing that I need to remember about this is that the radius, let me write up here. The radius is half of the diameter, okay, and the diameter is twice the radius. All right. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is something that we call the circumference. Okay, and I'm going to try and draw a little line here, and we're going to talk about the circumference. Now, the circumference is basically the perimeter of the circle. Okay, perimeter of the circle, so the distance around the circle. Okay, and we have this formula to calculate the circumference. The circumference is equal to the number pi, okay, times the diameter. Okay, now we could do that, or we could also use the formula the circumference is equal to pi times 2 times the radius. Because remember, guys, that the diameter is equal to taking the radius and multiplying it by 2. So if you're given the diameter, you can calculate the circumference, and if you're given the radius, you can also calculate the circumference. Now let's kind of talk about this number pi, okay? Pi is a constant. Pi is a number. It's approximately 3.14, okay? This decimal actually continues on forever and ever and ever, but we can approximate it using 3.14. And what happened is way back when in ancient Greece, what they would do was they would calculate the circumference of a circle by using a string, okay? They would take a piece of string and then they would measure that distance around the circle. But then they also started measuring the distance across the circle. And what they found out was that if you take the circumference and you divide it by the diameter, you kept getting the same number. Okay, no matter what circle you had, you all had the same number pi, and that's how they get that. Formula for the circumference. Okay, all right. The last one that we have, the last formula that we have, also involves a number pi, and this one is about area. Okay, so the area of a circle, and the area formula is equal to pi times the radius squared. Okay, and one way for me to remember the formulas for circumference and area is the term of pi. Okay, pi also is a number, but it also stands for that delicious dessert that we have on Thanksgiving. And we say that cherry pie is delicious and apple pies are too. Okay, so just one way for you guys to remember those. All right, so let's kind of move on. That's kind of all the information that we need so far. And let's go ahead and figure out, do some of these problems. And so if we, given a problem where we want to find the radius and diameter, given something like this where it says find the length of the radius, well, we're given that the diameter is equal to 20 meters, okay? Now remember, if I wanted to find the radius, then I would just take the diameter and divide it by 2, okay? So the radius is going to be 20 meters divided by 2, and the radius is going to give us 10 meters. Okay, and that's all we're doing. Okay, so basically all I'm doing is just taking this number and dividing it by 2 to find the radius. Okay, similarly, if you were given something like this where it was like, hey, find the length of the diameter, well, I know that the diameter is equal to 2 times the radius. Okay, and so if my radius is equal to 2 1/2 foot, I'm going to call this 2.5 feet. All right, then I'm going to plug that in and say that I'm just going to take 2 times 2.5, and then my diameter is just going to be a value of 5 feet. Okay, and that's all we're doing. All right, so it's important that we were able to do that. So some questions you'll see where you have this. You're just given this and you have to find either the radius or diameter. Now, sometimes you're going to be able to find things, you're best to find the circumference or the area, and you're given one or the other, the diameter or radius, and you got to be able to go back and forth between the two and figure them out separately, okay? All right, let's talk about the circumference of a circle, okay? Now, what I want to do on this one, it says find the circumference of the circle, use 3.14 for pi. Okay, so I'm given in this circle, I'm given the diameter of the circle, okay? So I usually write down C is equal to pi times D, okay? And my diameter here is going to be 6 centimeters, okay? And we want to use 3.14 for pi, so pi will use 3.14. Okay, so what I do is I plug each of those into my formula, and my circumference is going to be 3.14, and I'm going to multiply that by 6, and that's my circumference. Okay, so if we do that math, if we do 3.14 times 6, we're going to get 18.84. Okay, and this is going to be centimeters because we're dealing with the distance around the circle. Okay, all right. Let's take a look at the next one. The next one says find the circumference of the circle. Use 22/7 for pi. Okay, so on this one, you're given the radius. All right, you're given that the radius is 70 inches. So what I want to do, because of that, I'm going to use the circumference is equal to pi times 2 times r. Okay, I know my radius is equal to 70 inches. And for pi, we're going to use the approximation of 22/7. Okay, 22/7, if you divide those numbers, 22 divided by 7 is approximately 3.14. Okay, so it's a pretty good approximation for pi. So let's just go ahead and plug those numbers in. So we've got that our circumference is equal to pi times, or I'm sorry, not pi, let's use 22/7. All right, times 2 over 1 times 70 over 1. Okay, now let's go ahead and just multiply our numerators together. So I've got 22 times 2, that's going to give me 44 times 70, and then this is all going to be over 7, because if I take 7 times 1 and 1, I'm just going to get 7. So 44 times 70, that's going to give me about 3,080. All right, so my circumference here would be 3,080, and then divide that by 7. Okay, so if I divide that by 7, then that gives me an actual value of 440 inches. Okay, and we're just talking about length, so we're just dealing with inches in that case. All right, so now once we've kind of done that for just a few circles, let's go through and let's do these for some irregular shapes that kind of take a little bit of thought to go into evaluating these. So on this problem, it's asking you to find the perimeter of this figure. Now what you have is you have a square here, and you have a half circle, okay? So what I know about this, I know this is 9.4 kilometers. I know this is 9.4 kilometers. You can then automatically assume that this is also 9.4 kilometers, okay? So 9.4 kilometers. Now, what I know about the other part is that I have this half circle here with a radius of 4.7 kilometers, okay? So let's do this. Let's talk about our perimeter, okay? Let's write out P, perimeter, and that's going to be equal to so I'm going to do this, 9.4 plus 9.4 plus 9.4, okay? And all I'm doing is just adding up these sides, okay? You could also just take 9.4 and multiply it by 3. But now we have this half circle, okay? And so if I were to think about the circumference of a half circle, okay, so the circumference for a half circle means that you would take the circumference, and in this case we're given just the radius, 2 times pi times r, and then we would divide that by 2, okay? And that's what, and that's part of just, understanding how numbers work with certain shapes, okay? Because if I'm taking half a circle, I'm going to divide that by 2, because dividing by 2 is the same thing as taking half, okay? And so what I'm going to end up getting from this is I'm going to get plus 2 times 3.14 times 4.7. I'm going to put these in parentheses, okay? And then that's over 2, all right? And that's all we're doing, okay? But guys, you have to create this, okay? There's no like set formula on these irregular shapes. You have to think about it. You have to think about what you have, and you have to add all those pieces together, okay? And that's what I'm doing. So if we do 9.4 plus 9.4 plus 9.4, I'm just going to do 9.4 times 3, and that's going to give me 28.2. So my perimeter here is going to give me 28.2. And then if I do 2 times 3.14 times 4.7 that's going to give me a value of 29.516 and then divide that by 2. So if I divide that by 2, okay, that's going to give me 14.758. All right, so I get that my perimeter is equal to 28.2 plus 14.758. All right, so add those two numbers together, so plus 28.2. And this is going to give me a total perimeter of 42.958. And this is going to be in kilometers, okay? So again, you know, guys, there's no set formula for this, but I'm just thinking about what I have to do to find the distance around this object, okay? And I recommend, you know, showing your work, you know, from one step to the next, especially on this, just because it's easier for me to grade and stuff like that. So, all right, on this one, okay, it says find the perimeter of this figure, use 3.14 for pi. All right, so on this one, you know, let's think about all the different parts that we have. Okay, I have, it kind of looks like a pill-shaped object, and we're finding the distance around it. What I have here is I have a half circle here, and I have a half circle here, okay, with a radius of 3.2 yards, okay? And what I know about that, you know, if I have this half circle plus another half circle, that's just one full circle. So let me kind of highlight that real quick. This part right here, okay, that's one half. This is the other half. So two half circles make one circle. Okay, so I don't have to really do much on this one. I'm still just going to use, you know, what I would normally use, you know, to find the perimeter of that, to find that distance in blue. Okay, if I highlight this area here in green, this is 7.1 yards, then this over here is also going to be 7.1 yards. Okay. So what I have, I'm just going to add these two pieces to the area of, or the circumference of a circle, and we're just going to go from there. All right, so let's do this. Let's write out our perimeter is going to be equal to pi times 2 times the radius, and then we're going to add in 7.1 plus 7.1, okay? And my radius is equal to 3.2 yards. All right, so let's do this. Let's put in our perimeter is equal to 3.14, okay, times 2 times 3.2, okay, and then we're going to add 7.1 plus 7.1. All right, so 7.1 plus 7.1. All right, so if I add all these together, let's first multiply the part for the circle first. So 3.14 times 2 times 3.2 is going to give me 20.096, and then plus 7.1 plus 7.1 is going to give me 14.2, so plus 14.2. All right, so then if I add 20.096 to 14.2, all that added together is going to give me 34.296, okay, and this is going to be yards, okay, and that is my perimeter of that object. So a little bit tricky, a little bit different than what you're used to, but you know, you have to think about it. What do you have, okay, and just think logically. All right, let's go on to the next page, talk about area. Okay, on this page, what I want to do is go ahead and calculate the area of these two circles here real quick, and we're going to use 22/7 for pi. And so let's write down what our formula is. Area is equal to pi times the radius squared. Okay, now my radius is given to me by this length here. So my radius is equal to 14 centimeters. So I'm going to plug in is just 14 centimeters. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do 22/7 times 14 squared. Now, if I'm doing 14 squared, I'm really just doing 14 times 14. So 22 over 7 times 14 over 1 times 14 over 1. So we can do it that way. You can, plug this into your calculator a number of ways. But let's do 22 times 14 times 14, and that's going to give me a total value of 4,312. And then I'm going to divide this all by 7. Okay, so if I divide that by 7, all right, we've got 4,312 divided by 7. And that's going to give me an area of 616. Now this is an area, so we have to do centimeters squared, okay? And that's all we're doing, okay? So just plug it into the formula. Now on this one, we're using 3.14 for pi, and we want to round to the nearest hundredth, and that's going to be 2 decimal places. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and my area formula, area is equal to pi times the radius squared. Now, what you're given here is this is your diameter. So you're given that the diameter is equal to 4.2 meters, okay? And so if we wanted to find the radius, then we would just take 4.2 and divide it by 2. All right, so if I do 4.2 and divide it by 2, it's going to give me 2.1. So my radius here is equal to 2.1. All right, so now my area is pi times 2.1 squared. Okay, I'm going to plug in 3.14 for pi, so I'm going to do area is equal to 3.14, and then I'm going to multiply by 2.1 squared. Okay, now 2.1 is just 2.1 squared is just 2.1 times 2.1. So I'm going to rewrite this as 3.14, and then I'm going to multiply this by 2.1 and by 2.1. All right. So then let's do this. Okay, I've got 3.14 times 2.1 times 2.1, and that's going to give me a total area here of 13.8474. Now, because we're rounding to 2 decimal places, okay, what I want to do is take this number and look at, all right, if I have 0.84, okay, I want to round to this number, I look at the following number. And because that number is 5 or larger, I'm going to turn this number up to 1 more. So I'm going to really, this number, this area, rather, is going to become 13.85, and that's going to be meters squared, okay? And that's what we've got. All right, so, I am showing a lot of different steps. I don't expect you guys to show as many steps, but I encourage you guys to, understand the flow of this and be able to understand what we're doing. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. And we're going to kind of work on some other shaded or some weird shapes. Okay, and so on this one, it says find the area of the shaded region in the figure. So I'm going to zoom in on this figure and kind of think about the dimensions. Now, what I have is a square, a 10 by 10 yard square with a half circle cut out. So if I wanted to find the area of the shaded region, let's do this, okay? I want to do, okay, so area of shaded region is equal to the area of square, okay, and then minus the area of half circle. So minus area of half circle. Okay, and we'll talk about that here in a second. Now, what I know is that if this is a square, okay, all these lengths are 10. So even the length from here to here is 10. And I'm going to draw that length in. That this length from here to here is also going to be 10 yards. Okay, so this is 10 yards. Okay, now that's also my diameter. Okay, so my radius would be half of that. My radius would be, and it would be any length, any of these lengths here, and it would be 5 yards. okay, and this would be 5 yards. All right, so the other thing is the formula for a half circle. Okay, so a half circle, so 1/2 circle is going to have the formula area is equal to pi r squared, and then we're going to divide that by 2, okay? Just because we're finding half of the circle. So we're taking the whole area and finding half of it, meaning we're dividing it by 2. All right, so let's go ahead and do this. The area of the shaded region, and let's just call this R, or A, I mean. A is going to equal 10 times 10, and then minus pi times 5 squared over 2. And that's it, okay? Because we're finding the area of half a circle. So let's do this. Area is going to equal 100 minus, let's do 3.14 times 5 squared, which is 5 times 5, okay? And then divide it by 2. All right, so let's go ahead and just multiply that numerator together. And let's do 3.14 times 5, and that's going to give me 78.5. So area is equal to 100 minus 78.5 over 2. Okay, so if I divide that part by 2, that's going to give me 39.25. So minus 39.25, and then 100 minus that. So, okay, so I'm going to do 100 minus 39.25. And so then my area of the shaded region is just going to be 60.75, and this is going to be yards squared, okay? And that's all we're looking for, okay? So that's it. All right, so that's how we do something like that. Okay, on this next one, kind of a couple application problems here. It says a penny has a 1 centimeter radius, okay? We want to figure out what is its diameter, what is its circumference, and what is its area. So given just a little piece of information, we can answer all 3 of these questions, okay? So first of all, you know, if the radius is equal to 1 centimeter, then the diameter is going to be equal to 2 times 1 centimeter. So my diameter is going to be 2 centimeters. Okay, and that's it. All right, so diameter is 2 centimeters. All right, we want to find the circumference. And let's use 3.14 for pi. So our circumference is equal to pi times the diameter. Okay, and so we're going to do 3.14 times 2, and that's going to give us 6.28 centimeters. Okay, and so that's our circumference. All right, if we were going to find the radius, or I'm sorry, the area, I mean, we're going to use the formula pi times your radius squared. And so if we plug all that in, we're going to get 3.14 times 1 centimeter squared, okay? And so when we write all this out, this is 3.14, all right, put it in parentheses, times 1 times 1. It's just going to give me an area of 3.14 centimeters squared, all right? And that's all we're doing, okay? So not too bad, guys. You know, as long as you know the formulas and you're able to figure out what those lengths are, you should be all right, okay? Okay, this one is kind of tricky, okay, the roller rink floor, okay. On this one, it says a roller rink floor is shown, okay, here, okay, and these are really fun to go to. If you've got rollerblades or roller skates, okay, I don't know if you do, but, you know, it's a good time. Each end is a semicircle or a half circle, okay, semicircle and half circle mean the same thing. We want to find out what's the total area here, and if hardwood flooring costs $32.50 per square meter, how much will the flooring cost? So let's take a look here. Okay, on this, what we know is that the length from here to here is 20 meters. Okay, we know that the radius of the semicircle is 7 meters. The question is we have to find the area of 2 semicircles, which is the area of 1 circle. So let's write that down first, okay? So that 2 semicircles, 2 semicircles make one full circle. Okay? And so, we know, first of all, that the radius of this is 7 meters. So I'm going to write that down too, that the radius is equal to 7 meters. But the question is what's the length of this, which is the diameter? And the diameter is equal to 14 meters. It's going to be twice that length of the radius. Okay, the reason why I wanted that diameter is because in order to find the area of this rectangle, I have to have that other side. Okay, and that other side not only is it the side of a rectangle, but it's also the diameter of this semicircle. Okay, so to find the total area, okay, so the total area, we want to do the area of the rectangle plus the area of one circle. Area of circle. All right, so what I want to do with this is a 20 by 14 roller rink. So I'm going to do area is equal to 20 times 14. And then I'm going to add on the area of that circle with radius 7. Okay, and that's going to be pi times 7 squared. All right, so let's kind of continue this out and do the math here. 20 times 14 is going to give us, I want to say 280, but I don't think so. 14 times 20, 280, cool. All right, so I've got 280, all right, plus 3.14 times 7 times 7, all right? So if I do 7 times 7 times 3.14, that's going to give me 153.86, and then we're going to add that to 280 square feet, okay? And so that's what we've got. So now, if I add that to 280, all right, this gives us a total area of 433.86 meters squared. Okay, so that's our total area. All right. Now the other thing is that the hardwood flooring costs $32.50 per square meter. So how much would all of this flooring cost? Okay, so to figure that out, I'm going to take and let's do this. Let's do total cost would be 433.86, and we're going to multiply it by 32.50. Okay. Wow. And that's going to give us a total cost of $14,100.45 to buy the flooring for a roller rink floor. That's a lot of money. That's pretty crazy. So, guys, hopefully this video helps you understand, how to do some of these problems. Some of them are pretty tricky, but it's also, it's about, okay, what do you know? What is this measurement? And kind of thinking outside the box a little bit. So, I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.